And welcome back once again, esports fans. Now we roll right into our second game of the day. Boom Esports taking on Liyab, who've just put their second win on the board for the split, trying to vie for a playoff spot. And before we get into it, I'd like to take a brief moment to thank our wonderful sponsors, CTBC Bank, China Airlines, and Chunghwa Telecom. Thank you so much for making the PCS possible. Now, Clement, it is very much an uphill climb still here for Liyab to try and take on a playoff-locked Boom Esports. But we have to harken back to week one when these teams first faced off. It was actually quite a close affair, going 37.5 minutes, I recall correctly.
Yeah, that was a very different setting back then. We had the integration of Alex and Holo as the new junglers for Boom Esports, and of course that was when Kanji first swapped around. But, coming into week four, I feel like there are several threads that we can kind of pick out for both of these teams right now. Number one is that in both of Liyab's win, the key thing has been their counter pick on red side for Kanji. Kanji is probably the only top laner in the PCS that has successfully dealt with Gwen. It seems really weird to say, but he's actually a master at this. He's had the Lucian pick and the Fiora come out on the red side last picks to get him a good matchup in that sense, and he's been able to split push quite freely in both of the wins that Liyab did got. On the flip side, Rocky is a first pick Gwen player. So this is going to be very interesting to see if Boom Esports actually shift up their draft a little bit. So far, looking at Boom's remaining schedule, they have a very tough schedule after this game. They face PSG all the way down to J-Team, that bracket, after this game. So this is a bit of a must-win for them. They might be sitting quite comfortably at third place, but it's going to be hard for them to hold on to that position.
You're absolutely right. I think for Boom, they look great in the numbers. They have a tough schedule ahead. You got to be wondering, what they're thinking coming into this game. Is that like less pressure because they have the harder games later, or is it more pressure because of what happened the last time they met and because we have seen Kanji be able to deal with the top Gwen, which has been Rocky's specialty? I think there's a lot of questions to ask here, right? Alex, of course, back in the lineup for today. They have been playing around a lot, swapping Holo and he out between. But let's take a look at the Liyab lineup, as this had been solidified after that week one performance, with Kanji still in the top side and Liyab in the mid.
Yeah, we have been seeing this team develop in sort of a three-man squad. I don't think the team has showcased the best coordination between all five members, but we sort of have three separate teams doing their own thing. Kanji side lane split pushing, we have Dodoy and Xylia, a lot of Olaf plus Lulu picks or Karma plus Lin Zhao picks, that sort of thing going on to get mid jungle priority. And in the bot lane, Dawn and Aiden now have been winning their lanes a lot more than not. So very interesting dynamic that we have on the side of Liyab. And of course, we have that top lane matchup. It's exactly what we're talking about. Gwen, the most picked for Rocky. They are perfectly happy to do this on blue side first pick. On the other side, Kanji actually has been great at dealing with Gwen. Liyab actually is purposely allowing the Gwen to go through onto the draft, which is very different from the rest of the PCS teams.
And they have found success on it. Don't let the statistic difference fool you here. Well, Rocky has had a heck of a split already. Kanji has found answers in particular to the style of play that Rocky likes to do. I do think that in a couple of ways, these two players are a little bit more matched. I mean, the goal difference is, it's not great, but it's not like huge that they're both like negative and just in like the low hundreds. That actually is a little bit of a surprise to me. I thought Rocky would be a little bit higher personally, but he hasn't really been about the laning phase as much as he's been about getting his team with the team fights.
Yeah, I would say both of these top laners are more about scaling up and split pushing later, so they don't really care about getting advantages right off the bat. It's much more about keeping your lane safe and then coming in with the picks like the Lucian and the Fiora to out split push you in the late game. And Rocky, we have talked about this a lot, has been the most improved player coming in from the Boom Esports side. I honestly didn't think he had it in him, and looking at the spring split, he was going very aggressive but not getting rewarded that many times with his play. But in this split, it's been very different. He's actually been coming out and being a huge difference makers, especially in those mid-game sort of Herald and Dragon team fights that we've seen. So props to Rocky. He definitely has been showing up great. And Kanji is, also kind of new to the top lane. So a very interesting matchup to see, where both of these guys, I feel like, are coming in with fresh takes on how to actually play the lane and how to actually position themselves within their own teams.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Clash of Styles bears out, right? And again, considering how it was such a different time way back in week one when they met, and a different situation for both these players. We'll see how it shakes out. There actually is a Boom blue side Gwen ban to pair with the typical Dodoi Olaf ban, standard by Liyab now on the opposite side with the Viego and the Xin Zhao.
I love that swat coming in from Rocky. You know, he's just removing the Gwen from his face. He knows doesn't want to pick this on the blue side, but he also doesn't want Liyab to have it in the meantime. So Boom Esports definitely doing their homework in this one. They're going to take that out of the equation. I still expect Liyab to hold on to the counter pick for the very end of the draft and give Kanji the best matchup he can. That seems to be the winning formula for them. But if we talk about the remaining picks on the table, I feel like Varus has actually been pretty big for Dawn. We did have a great game out of him, a 14 KDA flawless game for him against Hong Kong Attitude. That one has to be very high up in the rotation coming in for Liyab, and it's up to Boom to how they want to deal with this bottom lane. The weird thing for me is that Wako has not actually been that aggressive in lane this split. They're actually playing more towards the top side of the map this time around, and true to that fashion, they're just going for the Ziggs, very easy and safe lock-in.
But an early pickup for sure. Liyab on their side, as you mentioned, probably won't go for a Kanji pick because you want to save the counter. A lot of teams on the red side have been doing that, although we've seen a few exceptions. I'm always curious to see what Xyliath ends up doing, as he has often gone for a supportive mid-laning champion to try and boost up Dodoi. The Karma is still available, as is the Lulu, but of course, the signature Olaf isn't there. But they do start with the support pick. It will be the Leona for Aiden. It has been his most played champion so far.
We also have seen the Draven coming out for Dawn. It's I'm not sure they're going to play this matchup. They look like they're setting up for the Yasuo.
I think so, with that Diana pick.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be the challenge. This is also how they got their first win of the split, just playing Diana, playing this composition against Berjaya and having great success in the team fights for it. In the meantime, Boom Esports going to go for potentially a bottom lane here. We actually have seen a lot more Trundle supports cropping up all over the map at this time. I do prefer that over Trundle Jungle.
Alex has played Trundle Jungle once. Yeah, you know, we'll see if it ends up being the pop champion. And since they know they're going to get counterpicked anyways, early pickup for the Renekton for Rocky. He would like the lane bully.
Yeah, I think it's a great answer to whatever Kanji could take out here. You know, it typically has been the Gnar, but I don't think Gnar really fits a wombo combo comp if you want to play with the Yasuo.
Maybe he goes Mordekaiser.
Something different.
You know? I feel like that's a Kanji champion.
You know, the craziest thing about Mordekaiser is that out of the top regions, only one other player has picked Mordekaiser, and only once. And they didn't win. So that's a first for the PCS. The first win out of all major regions. I'm not even sure if we're classified as a major region anymore, but I think
it still counts. It still counts. You get invites to Worlds, it counts. But because the Mordekaiser, the Renekton gets shown already, it does prompt an early pickup of the Camille. Should be going into Kanji's hands now. So that's already out of the way, and now this second phase of the pick ban kind of changes a little bit.
Yeah, we have Liyab that is much more centered around picking rather than, I would say, Wombo combo and pick can kind of flow together, but I definitely don't think you go in Mordekaiser with the Diana, because that's double AP mid-top, and it's also pretty weak early on, so I don't think it can support Mordekaiser very well. Definitely do not expect that to happen. So
that's too bad. It would have been fun to see. 2 Mordekaisers in a row would have been just like absolutely crazy. I still think the Yasuo could come in here for sure, as you mentioned, pairing up with the Diana. A couple more jungle bans, so they're clearly not convinced that the Trundle will be a jungle pick.
I do think Trundle's support isn't all that bad, and against Leona it's actually quite good. Leona doesn't have a lot of ability to escape from Trundle, and typically Leona does bring Aftershock, which makes her even weaker to the Subjugate. Subjugate lasts longer than Aftershock, and you can actually steal stats away from Aftershock and leave Leona with even less defensives than before she had Aftershock. So that's a bit of a counter matchup. A great anti-tank weapon there. So I think there's definitely a fair chance that that's just going to be a support Trundle. And Varus, like we mentioned, has been Dawn's sort of secret weapon. He had a great showing on it yesterday. Honestly, didn't think he would have such a terrific game on it. but he definitely proved me wrong, and it's also great with what Liyab want to do. It's a very obvious poke composition, and they're going to hold on to the last pick a little bit later here. I'm trying to think what else pairs up with Diana.
I think you can go back to the Twisted Fate, maybe, if they want to keep it poke-oriented. But yeah, if you want to combo with the Diana, it's a little different. And that is a Kha'Zix lock-in, so we will get our Trundle jungle. But I wasn't expecting the bug.
Pretty interesting. So far, we've seen SOFM play this.
Also,
Very few people.
LeBlanc completely left alone this entire draft, where it has been kind of permabanned yesterday. It does make it all the way through, and Ruby gets his hands on it. This was, of course, the assassin pick that he started picking up after a lot of his more, shall we say, eccentric choices.
Yeah, Ruby has shown up to be a terrific LeBlanc player here, and this is a draft from Boom Esports that is very much targeted at just punishing Dodoy, because you have Kha'Zix level 6 going into the jungle, and his damage is actually very, very high. We did see, I believe it would still going to go for the Duskblade. It helps a lot more in team fights compared to Prowler's Claw. And it's just a champion where you hit level 6, you go into the jungle, and you try to snipe out the enemy. Not really very gank-oriented, but since Boom Esports lanes are all so strong across the board, I don't really think they even need it. On the other hand, we have Liyab going with the Cannonball composition. Lots of wombo combo potential, but individually on the top side, they're all quite weak to their counterparts.
Yeah, I think the laning phase is going to be a little bit tough for them, but if they can get it together for the team fights, if they can just, even if they end up playing a little bit of weak side and come out without giving up too many kills early on, based on what we saw yesterday, I do think they have the coordination to pull this one off. I would have questioned that last week. But Liyab definitely really fired together yesterday, and we saw a very, very beautiful macro play out of them.
Yeah, I think for Liyab this time around, it's a little bit more challenging. I don't think they've ever had a wombo combo that required the entire team to participate. Usually it's just Xyliath and Dodoy. And I think 2-man combos are a lot easier than 5-man combos.
Especially with, like you talked about this team being like 3 different teams kind of doing their own thing.
Yeah, Liyab, to me, they kind of represent the Philippines. It's not like a very centralized country, and I think Liyab represents that, where they definitely have their own, kind of like factions and regional preferences on what they're supposed to do. But this time around, they do have to all be on the same page, and they have to play sort of, I would say, a Drake stacking focused early game, and try to use that wombo combo to the maximum efficiency. The target should be on Wako, who doesn't have the best of escapes right here. The rest of the members are a little bit hard to kill because of how flexible they are, how mobile they are, excuse me. So we'll see if Liyab can actually pull this one off. It's a much harder task for them, I think.
Yeah, Liyab certainly will have their work cut out for them as they search for their 3rd win on the split. Boom Esports, they're going to try to get this one out of the way before they face the top flight of the PCS as we load up onto Summoner's Rift for our 2nd game of the day. Let's see if the Cannonball composition can work out. Had some mixed results in this league. Not the easiest thing to pull off when you need all 5 members.
That skin's pretty cool.
Just saying. No, you're right. It is.
Not sure what skin line that is from, but right now we should be paying attention to the Kha'Zix build. We do have double electrocutes coming out here, so a lot of burst potential. I think they are going to try and focus down Dodoy. Kha'Zix usually just has a straight clear, full clear type of gameplay. You don't really want to get into too many skirmishes early on. He will go for the scuttles just because of how strong his lanes are across the board. But I don't expect him to look for too much action in the lanes themselves earlier on. Meanwhile, for Liyab's side, we are going to get just a top to bottom clear. I do like this idea. You want to get your red buff earlier. It does help you with combat stats, especially when most of the time Kha'Zix is going to be looking for you on your own red. So I like this just sort of start from them, making sure that Dodoy isn't going to run into Alex early.
Yeah, that's the game plan for Liyab. You do want to wait a little bit of time before your Diana can really get online after the fact. Keeping an eye up top. Looks like Kanji actually put a little bit of hurt onto Rocky level 1. Of course, Renekton not having access to all his abilities just yet means that's a little more possible with the tactical sweep. It's always fun to watch a Camille A lot of mobility on that champion. Can fight well, can split push well. Kind of does it all.
This is a pretty confident build coming out from Kanji. He's not actually going for the Ignite. We have seen a lot of people... Ooh, Wako getting tagged up.
Yeah, ooh, wow, they burn the Ignite as well. And Exhaust onto Dawn. Bouncing Bomb, turns around. Maybe Turnabout's fair play here. Pop! Oh, the flash, the follow with the club! And the little J-Team spam there. Well, that is a great play by Boom's bot side to pick up first blood in the 2v2.
Yeah, I think they forgot about how terrifying Trundle is just level 1 with the chomp down. He has no ability to get Aftershock, but it doesn't really matter. He just takes away AD from Dawn. He has massive amounts of damage. You don't really want to face tank a Trundle level 1, and that's definitely a lesson that Liyab has learned. I don't think they've been playing against too many Trundles.
No, that's one of the reasons. You know, oftentimes looking at Trundle support, you think of the pillar and the interrupt as well as the knockup it provides, but less talked about. It's just, Trundle just does damage when he gets in your face. So nicely played by Boom to get on the board and the counter engage. And we haven't even really talked about Alex on this Kha'Zix and the burst damage that he has in his pocket.
Yeah, we are seeing him going for just a very early potential invade here. He's level 3 and does have the help of Pop. Looks like they're just going to go for a double scuttle play. I love this from Alex, you know, sequencing quite well here before he goes into the top lane, knows he has a chance to double scuttle. It's going to send him to level 6 first, and that's where he can really start hunting down on this Diana. Meanwhile, Liyab, ooh.
Yeah, Xyliath taking a little bit low, is able to Justice Punch his way to safety, doesn't have to burn on the flash, so getting zoned a little bit. You know, Liyab on 2 lanes now getting pushed in. This does mean Alex is going to have his pick of lanes, pick of jungles. Not much to take up top side, though, because of the vertical start.
He's just going to get his double scuttle. So, pretty happy with that start. I think he'll be... And wow, Rocky nearly taking down Kanji.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage. And Kanji, he's going to sit in lane here for a minute at least, but that should force the back. And, oh boy, Boom Esports on all the lanes. We talked about how they have winning lanes across the board, or at least lanes that have the potential to win. But they are really starting off on the right foot.
Yeah, this is what makes Boom Esports so powerful. It's just the fact that they have great laning players across the board. I feel like for Boom Esports, they honestly underperformed a little bit in spring, but I think they're getting back to where we expected that they would be amongst the top brass of the PCS. You know, I definitely don't see their roster as having a ceiling lower than something like Machi Esports coming into it. So I'm pretty happy that they're actually able to showcase it throughout most of this split, especially. Now, for Liyab, the big question here is, like, how are they actually going to get a Drake fight going? Their bot lane is losing, and their mid lane is getting pushed in as well. I feel like for Liyab to do something, they have to be willing to give up lanes and just give up a minion wave or 2 to find some sort of pick going into it. Bot lane would be a good target here, as Pop is likely not going to get his flash back in time. So let's see if Liyab decide to go for that one.
I gotta be careful not to get poked out too much. Aiden does actually put a little bit more damage back onto Pop, but Wako just punishing the positioning of Dawn as he starts to zone him away from minions. Always gonna keep an eye on Dodoy as well. You know, still level 5, not gonna have a lot of chances to get a gank off just yet. Pre-Moonfall, and actually both junglers sniffing around here. So Dodoy might go for it. In fact, he should see Alex wandering into his face, but he's got his eyes set elsewhere as the teleport comes through, and they turn for Pop, quickly taking him down. A TP from Xyliath not even fully necessary.
Yeah, beautiful play coming out from there. I definitely think it was needed to make sure that they were going to win that actual 3v3. So even though he doesn't get an assist, he still helps out the rest of his team. And they are going to continue on to an early Drake. You know, that's the big question we're asking about. How are they going to start the Drake stack? And unfortunately for Boom Esports, I felt like they just handed it over. You know, Alex could go in that situation, but Pop going over the minion line and the TP coming into the position where it was, that was just a death sentence for him. Ooh, Dodoy.
Oh, he's forced to flash. Okay. He does manage to get out, but you're right. I think that kind of was the answer to the question, how do Liyab actually get these Drake fights, and started with a gank. Dawn's got to get out, though, very carefully, and this is that annoying combination that you can
They still
have,
find
but
it?
they're going to turn on as Dodo doesn't leave. The counter engage, and Dawn will pick up the kill. Here comes Ruby to delete Dawn. The flashes on both sides. The AD carry is going to get left for dead as Alex comes in to taste the fear of Aiden, and Dodo goes down as well. In comes Xyliath a bit too late, and it's just a party in the bot lane.
Yeah, didn't have the range to get in with the heroic entrance, and you know, Alex's damage can just punch right through. 2 kills on his part. Just beautiful play coming in. I think it was a little bit questionable for Dawn to flash forward like that. He was dead regardless. So not really so sure about that play coming in from him. Could have stayed on that summoner for future plays. But
Wow.
huge bounce back for Boom Esports coming into this one.
Yeah, let's see it again. For a moment, it did seem like Dawn and Aiden might have had the counter engage, and this is the combo. It's just the pillar forcing onto the minefield, and Dawn just has no health left.
Yeah, like, even though they do get Wako here, they need to immediately back out with everyone. And, you know, Dawn even expends the flash, still is going to die. And Dodoy also hangs around against Alex, giving him a kill. So I felt like Liyab probably could have got away with less expended, but they didn't really get a clean getaway. And Boom Esports are going to be able to snowball quite heavily off of that. I do expect to see Alex start going into the enemy jungle. Now he also has the Umbral Glaive to be able to just completely deny vision in the river.
Yeah, early pickup. Nicely done. Pop goes on a roam himself, and the river just fully warded up here by Boom Esports. Pop will get spotted in the brush. Dawn putting a little bit of punishment onto him, while Wako is not quite within range to find an answer. Meanwhile, Boom taking the tempo advantage to pick themselves up a Ripped Herald. Topside could get pushed in pretty quickly here. Kanji has been thoroughly punished by Rocky.
Oof. Yeah, you expect this in the matchup. Nectin going up against Camille without Ignite. No real chance for Camille to win this one. Rocky just coming in with far more damage, and that is going to be the first tower just going down here. On the flip side, we do have Liyab potentially going for a tower dive, but I see it as quite difficult to execute with the flashes being up for Pop.
Dodo's holding.
Yeah, I don't think they can actually go for this one.
Meanwhile, Rocky's going to try and let Shelly get one more charge off, and it will. Nicely done by Boom. Here's the dive going through. We wait for the mini wave. Not a big one. And they just immediately decide, no, we don't want this. Can they get away, though? As Ruby was coming in, actually thinks better of it and turns back. They're spending a lot of time here doing nothing.
Yeah, this is rather unfortunate, and I think Pop is just goading them at this point. He knows that they're still there. It's like, well, you're nowhere on the map. If Aiden's not in this lane, he's probably in that brush, and that's a pretty good guess from Pop.
So nothing doing for the Liyab bot side. Game continues to snowball in favor of Boom, especially off of tower gold and tower pressure. It does open a lot on the top side. Kanji going to kind of be stuck in catch-up mode for a little while. It does feel like Liyab wanted to get out of the laning phase with less casualties, but unfortunately, they just got given a little bit too much over to the side of Boom Esports, particularly on that big play bot side.
Definitely, and I don't think it's terrible for Liyab necessarily. It's definitely bad, but it's not game-breaking to the point where that they can't come back. The thing about pick compositions is it's much about preying. It's a lot about preying on the mistakes from your opponents. And Boom Esports themselves don't have a particularly well-scaling composition. So I feel like Liyab can still come back from this spot, but their windows are closing. And I think the main thing we have to look at is just how this Drake fight is going to set up. We have Liyab investing a lot into it. Quad wards already down on the river quadrant, but they can't really fight this point against Boom Esports. They have to get a very quick pick-off in order for this to work. Just take a look at the TPs here. We do have an extra TP on Xylia, so that could be something that Liyab do try to utilize. Meanwhile, both top laners can join this fight here. And Boom Esports gets jumped.
You can't go that way, not into the traffic cone, but he turns and goes back in, and in comes the combination. Looking for the damage. They don't quite find the deletion onto Ruby before he dashes away, and in comes Rocky to the backside, and it's going to be the counter engage here from Boom Esports. Alex taken low and sniped down by Dawn. Meanwhile, in the back, Kanji is able to finish off Ruby, and it's just a fight on multiple fronts, but Liyab are coming out ahead.
Yeah, Liyab do get 2 extra, and they're going to get Rocky as well. Very unfortunate for Boom Esports. They don't actually get any targets here. Ooh, well done on Aiden's part. Able to just trap everyone in that quadrant. And we're going to have a pause.
Gonna have a bit of a pause there, but just taking stock of what just happened. That was Liyab started that fight after Aiden basically gets caught and decides, all right, nuts to this, I'm going back in. On the other half of it, yeah, let's just take a look at it again. Because Aiden, honestly, I think at this point, yeah, that's maybe not the worst thing you can do.
Yeah,
and they go for the cannonball comp.
The rotations are so much quicker just from Liyab. Rocky comes in, but he doesn't actually get kills here. Dodo is still with the rocket belt, able to go out. And watch Don. This is so ballsy from Don. Actually walking back, getting the chains of corruption, making sure Rocky can't get onto him, and still getting the kills. Absolutely beautiful play from Don, just in a 1v3 situation, to walk back in and kill secure that. So very unfortunate for Boom Esports. I don't think they wanted to take the fight there. They're much looking for just some poke and to instantly get out. But Alex and Ruby both get caught up in that beautiful cannonball combination. And to be honest, it wasn't really even a cannonball. It was just Aiden throwing everything he had before he was about to go down that caught out the LeBlanc and the Kazakhs in the same time. And neither of these champions are great at taking damage.
Yeah, I think that's the flip side of having a couple of burst champions, right? It's that they are a lot more mobile. They're a lot more trying to dodge out damage, trying to kill somebody before they get killed. But if they do get kind of slammed down by a bunch of CC and damage, then, well, you're in a bit of trouble. And that does open up the Cloud Dragon for Liyab. That is the opening they wanted. I really love where they used the fight and the decisiveness from this team showcasing, because everyone was in a position to respond when Aiden was caught. And they didn't really hesitate in pulling the trigger.
I feel my palms getting sweaty at this point. Is this Liyab Chapter 3 Copium Rising? I don't want to jinx it, but as kind of a hidden Liyab fan, I'm getting kind of nervous about this one.
The prophecy must be completed, Clement. One way or another, it will happen. I don't know. I mean, it's very early to call Liyab victory by any means, but I see what you're talking about. We're seeing this team improve their decision-making, improve their coordination. We talked about how difficult it is to execute a comp where you really need everybody to be on the same page constantly, but they just showcased in that instance they certainly were.
Yeah, definitely. You know, Aiden has had tremendous improvements, I think, over the split. At the start, I wasn't so sure it was a solid upgrade, but now I'm very certain that, you know, Aiden definitely deserves a spot on this starting roster. And the key thing about that fight is Liyab now has a 2 dragon stack, which is very early on. If you look at the timers, they're going to get Dragon Soul at 21 minutes. And it's going to be an ocean. So that's not something Boom Esports can live with at this point, and it just means that a lot of opportunities are going to be given to Liyab for creating just full-on wombo combo picks. You have to group up for these drakes. You have to get into river, and Liyab can just catch you out when you're trying to go down on these ramps. So we'll see how Liyab does use that pressure and gravity to trap out Boom Esports. On the other hand, Boom Esports, they still are in the gold league. Like, I want to make this very clear. If I'm just breaking this down by percentages, definitely Boom Esports are still in the lead right here. But the way they have to play this, I think, does change a little bit. They can't get sucked into the Drake game. I feel like they have to be more aggressive on wrestling vision away from enemy jungle and trying to find picks there. I think Ruby is still in a great spot. If Alex finds anyone, he's going to delete them on a solo basis. So that should be what Boom Esports are trying to look for. Just trying to get some counter jungle invade going.
Alex has been able to find some answers early on in this game, but we haven't really seen too much out of him. That last fight does kind of get popped before he can really do a whole lot. Ruby, of course, always a threat on this LeBlanc. It's not something that it seemed Liyab were super worried about letting it go all the way to the end through draft. Ooh, teleport in from Boom. They want to take a fight here. And Ruby hops the wall, tries to get a deletion off to Dawn, but only finds half his health bar on the combo.
Half is enough.
It's better than none. To force him away, at least, yeah.
Yeah, we do have Don popping on potions, but he's completely out at this point. So if Ruby gets another one of those finds, then Liyab don't have any business at this Herald. I love what Boom Esports are doing to wrestle control away from this objective. This, in theory, should be Liyab, where Liyab is a bit stronger, where they have the full 5-man team coming in. But Boom Esports playing with the top wave, slowly inching River Vision, and just getting Ruby to get these pokes in has been giving them a chance, as we have Dodoy coming in.
Ooh, let's see if they have the damage there. Not quite. Okay. I mean, it does seem like Boom got a little bit too spread for a moment, and Liyab decisively looking to try and find the damage. Instead, they just settle for a little bit of chip onto the turret, and they do peel Boom away from that Rift Herald for now.
That was a beautiful satchel charge from Wako. He actually stops the dash coming in from Dodoy to bounce it backwards, or he would have been in a lot of trouble and most likely would have had to burn Flash, especially with Diana having that rocket build afterwards. So a great play by Wako. That's typically the hardest part about playing this Ziggs, is just being able to get not only the jump back on your satchel charge, but also the knockback on your opponents at the same time. Very well timed.
Right. Boom are also able to capitalize on the positioning to not only secure that Herald as Alex goes and solos it, but also knock down an inner on top side. Boom's 2 towers this game have all been in the top lane. The only 2 towers this game.
And the big thing about this play is Rocky, at this point, he can survive through the entire combo from Liyab, and I think come out with still 75+% health. The Core Drinker's done. He's well on his way towards a Sterix Gauge, and he also has a stopwatch. So Boom Esports, at this point, they are looking at this next Drake, and because Rocky is so damn powerful, they should be able to just use him as a sledgehammer and break open this terrain, as we do have Rocky just going all the way to the opposite side of the river.
Dodoy fishing around. There's Rocky and Ruby waiting in the wings. That is a death brush if I've ever seen one. They do not have Kanji here. Liyab leaving on the top side. Teleport is available. And Boom, they might be able to secure this dragon, but they're not keen to start it up while all the members of Liyab are healthy. And it does look like it's just sort of a poke game here. And actually, Alex pops the Herald in mid. And I think that's just to buy time. It's just a distraction while the dragon goes down.
Yeah, I like how Boom Esports is playing this one. They're taking it very delayed, waiting until they can get maximum value. If you look at the map, they synchronized this play with Rocky also pushing up the bot wave. So essentially they are getting 3 things done at the same time. They're getting mid HP, they're getting bot tower, they also took the Drake, which stops Liyab stacking, and they only exchange for the top tower on Kanji's side. So very well done by Boom Esports. That was definitely a play that was very well measured. You could see that all members of the team were waiting for the exact moment. Wako was hiding outside of vision. He didn't want to give Dodoy any chances whatsoever. And it's just a beautiful measured play that ensures that Boom Esports, they don't have to face check later on into Liyab traps.
Yeah, really smart play to get a lot for themselves on the map and really not lose a whole lot. I mean, yeah, sure, you lose the top tower, but you've already secured the 2 up there. The lane's about as long as it can possibly get at this point. And this is what you can do also when you have so much damage and so much push between so many numbers of your team, right? I mean, look at the burst potential and the wave clear potential that Boom has. They can shove so hard with these champions.
Yeah, they definitely can. It's going to be hard for Liyab to ever knock down that mid lane tower. And with that mid being up, it's just very difficult for Liyab to find any sieging opportunities or even split pushing opportunities without finding a pick first. And I think we're going to have this game sort of stagnate out with Boom Esports being pretty happy to just get more gold onto Wako, push in even further on Rocky. He already has a lead. He's going to demand basically 2v1 attention at this point and try to find their opportunities that way. Well, on the flip side, I feel like Liyab has to be the one that plays a little bit more aggressively this time around. They have to be able to have Aiden just willing to open up on Ruby when he comes in at some points.
Yeah, but Boom are getting a little aggressive themselves, just for a little bit of fun. But there's a reason Boom is the team that has the longest game time in the league. This is a team that does like to take its time when they have the opportunities to do so. not in a big rush, and that's perfectly all right in this situation. You have the advantages.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like in terms of the late game, it's actually fairly difficult for Dawn to survive. He's going to have a lot of protection coming in from Xylia. Typically, we do have Duskblade in the end for the Kazakhs, so you know, if he gets invisible, goes into the back line, there's not a lot that Dawn can actually do to keep himself alive. So, in terms of the waiting game, I feel like Boom Esports themselves, they're not too rushed about this this one, even though they have, you know, Renekton and Double Assassins, which aren't exactly great scaling champions. They should still feel pretty happy to drag this one out and just acquire leads over time.
Liyab trying to set up a death rush of their own if Boom do push a little too far forward, but Boom have been respecting the distance and the strength of an engage that Liyab do have. You know, we talked about the Cannonball comp, but haven't seen it fully executed yet, but the threat of it is still there as we are getting closer and closer to that 21-minute mark. Baron, of course, on the Rift does mean that Boom can start pressuring there, even though it's a little early to commit to it. Speaking of pressure, it's actually Boom who just easily clear out the mid tower with the satchel charge. That really opens up the map.
Yeah, and they are going to start forcing Liyab to face check into them. And I've seen throughout this entire siege poke situation that Dawn is incredibly vulnerable here. Mega Inferno Bomb goes onto him, and he's basically in one-shot territory from Kazakhs. So I feel like that's how Boom Esports is going to play the objective game, just poke him out. And Kanji should still be fine here.
Kanji should be, but okay, unfortunately Alex comes to even the odds out as he gets the Hextech ultimatum, and he's going to go ahead and make his way over the wall, and Wako will snipe the kill.
Very well done.
Downtown.
Still has that AD carry senses. He definitely needs the gold. And Liyab, on the flip side, aren't able to get anything on the top. We do have Dodoy looking for a attempt on Ruby, but that's just not possible against the LeBlanc. You have Ruby playing very safe on his side of the river as well. So, now this is I think a common mistake that Liyab does make in the mid to late game, where a lot of times we see Kanji because he needs to keep that side lane pressure, so he will over split push and cause himself to just die, and the other side of the map doesn't get anything out of it.
Yeah, contrasting to what Boom do, it does seem like there's always a rhyme or reason to where they're sending members and trying to get something done. We've seen them just get so much more on the map here, and Liyab's game plan a little slowed down. The Drake stacking interrupted. There will be another Ocean in 10 seconds. And Liyab, even though they're behind, I feel like they still feel confident for a 5v5, should it come down to that.
Definitely still want to keep this Drake stack going, and what Boom Esports need to pay attention to is not to walk too far forward just alone here. Ruby goes in but doesn't find anyone.
Inside track here for Liyab. Yeah, I think we are going to get one of those big old fights. The question comes down to the execution right now. Aiden in the front, Ruby around the back of the pit. Did they snipe? Did he? No, he didn't quite. He didn't quite get the skeleton crab. I thought he was going for it there. A little bit of damage starting up on the Drake here. Kanji off to the side. Has to be careful as he's caught behind the pillar. Boom, looking to keep him cut off here. But Liyab should be able to secure this one. Dodoy on the smite does manage to get it. And Liyab actually starting to walk away from this one without too much trouble.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that Boom Esports wasn't willing to force that a bit harder. But part of it was because of how well the positioning from Liyab was. We saw Xylia not trying to enter the fight with heroic entrance, instead just sticking next to Dawn the entire time. So Ruby wasn't able to find any poke onto him. He was full HP throughout the entire Dragon take. I think that really dissuaded Boom Esports from starting it. I felt like they still could have inched forward with Rocky just going on Kanji, but here we go.
And in goes Dodoy looking for somebody. Couldn't quite find the damage onto Pop, but it doesn't even matter because Xyliath is able to get Ruby down. Boom, I don't think expected that many members of Liyab to be there.
Yeah, and once again, Aiden does find the crowd control necessary to lock down Ruby. Ruby doesn't even get away with his flash intact, and Zhonya's, so very surprising that the LeBlanc actually falls there, and now Liyab are going to be pushing down on this mid lane tower with vision advantage on Baron.
It opens up the siege, but the wave clear is just a little bit too strong for them to fully commit to it right now. So Boom, despite being down a member, actually dissuade anything from coming of it.
I do want to see that play again, but I'm just very surprised that Ruby was caught there. I felt like the idea from Boom Esports was pretty nice. They know that the top side doesn't have vision. They also have the Umbral Glaive to make sure that they are completely unseen. But somehow they actually fumble the jump onto Liyab, and they end up being the ones paying the price there. So a little bit unfortunate. I don't think they found Dawn, which was the prime target there. Instead, they just opened up onto Xyliath and Aiden, and it ended up costing them Ruby's life.
Yeah, you can't really assassinate the tankiest members, at least not nearly as easily. I thought Dodoy was going to be the one being pivotal in that one, as he was waiting and baiting, or having Aiden bait for him, rather, but it didn't really end up taking. Yeah, just utilizing these brushes, trying to get as much pressure as they can down, will be able to grab that Scuttle Crab for themselves. Mega Inferno Bomb does shave a little bit off the health bars of Dodoy and Aiden. Dodoy two-stepping the Bouncing Bomb, however. Great mechanics there. 4v4 here around the Baron Pit as there's a split push going on bottom. But Rocky has the TP advantage.
Yeah, I could definitely close this noose whenever he wants to. In the meantime, we do have Kanji catching up very quickly now that he does have the Ravenous Hydra. Liyab do a good job, though. If you look at their red side, despite Boom Esports just being there about a minute ago, they have completely cleared it of any backwards. So they're still willing to play the split push game, even with Rocky having the TP advantage here.
Certainly the case. Liyab doing a good job staying relevant in this game.
Ooh.
They know that they're going to be strong around the fights, and ooh, yeah, Alex stealing away that red, or from his own teammate. Securing it, I suppose.
He deserves the red, but what I'm oohing about is Liyab is switching up their lane allocations. If you look at the bot side, it suddenly has become a two-man game against Rocky.
Oh, yeah.
Very sneaky, and he's completely
They want to gank the TP. Good old strats.
Ooh. Yeah, very classical stuff coming out from Liyab. However, Boom Esports might just call this and, force them to return towards the Baron area. Liyab, I don't think are completely unfazed by this, and finally Xyliath is spotted, so all of our sneaky business probably comes to an end, and Xyliath is in a bit of trouble here.
And he's still a tanky boy. He's going to be all right with it for the time being.
Important to note, he does have the Aftershock, so it does make their teamfight combo a lot stronger. Really wasn't trying to roam with the Predator early on. Instead going for the more common build, as we see a 5v5 centric Galio.
Aiden waiting to see if he could find something on it to Alex. Not going to be able to do that. And I think I have an answer, by the way, Clement, to your question about that skin. I'll get to it in a little bit. As Alex is able to escape. I think that might be the Demon Lord Galio.
I think
not 100%. It's been a while since I've seen it in game. There are a lot of great Galio skins out there. I do like the chicken one. Pretty good. But we'll talk about that later because the fight's on. Kanji, Hextech Ultimatum,
Alex,
and into the kill onto Alex. They don't even need the hero's entrance. But now the jungler is dead. Meanwhile, in the back, Rocky goes in for round 2, but he's going to be technically knocked out just in a moment. Actually getting resurrected on the back half, and the turnaround Dodoy going on for the Moonfall, finding a couple, but not enough of an execution. And it is just low health bars all around. Aiden dashing and dodging, trying to get away. Wako taking out Xyliath, and a great second wind here from Boom Esports. Nets them a 2-for-1, and it may be more. Kanji, Dodoy, Dawn running for their lives. And it looks like Kanji goes in for another round. Tack sweep onto Ruby. The dash, distort, looks for more. Kanji should have left when he had the chance. And that's going to be Boom with a big win.
Yeah, Boom Esports way too agile, and Rocky with the hero play. He bought the team so much time after the jungler went down in Alex. Was still able to go in 1v4 and just chunk the HP bars from everyone. I thought Rocky was dead for sure because his angle of attack was rather awkward. He was sectioned off from the rest of his team, but he does make the corner and just goes straight in. Very well played from the Renekton, exactly what you want to do in that situation. We're going to take a look at how Boom Esports set this up. They tried to open up with some poke onto Dunn. They do get a fair bit of it to go down, but Alex, unfortunately, is caught out of position by Aiden. And they just take out the jungler without, much troubles here. I do think they were trying to go for Ruby. Unfortunately for Alex, and a very noble move. He takes the hook shot for his mid laner. But watch this play as Rocky just survives for so damn long. Gets the Gore Drinker Surge stage. and gets the resurrect with the GA, dodges out on the combo from Dodoy too. Unfortunately, Dodoy wasn't able to hold that one on for just a while longer. I felt like he could have gotten 2 kills back if he waited just a bit more with the Moonfall.
Yeah, the extended engage too. It's just so many low health bars. They just didn't have enough. Kanji, I think he could have just hookshotted back to base and he'd been fine. He got a little cocky thinking, I could kill Ruby, forgot about the distort, mimic chains, and then, you know, Pop came to the rescue, and that was going to be all she wrote. And it looks like we are into a pause after the fight. So, well, Liyab have had a couple of good ones. Boom, they just found answers, and it looks like they picked up another dragon off the back half.
Yeah, they definitely are keeping this one fairly close, and this game is going down to the wire. I don't think either side has a massive advantage when it does come down to the scaling aspect of the game. We will see later on that Dawn is going to be ever more fragile on the side of Liyab, but Kanji is going to be able to split push a little bit easier against the Renekton later on. So we are going to have a shifting dynamics here where we probably will see Boom Esports starting to group up a little bit more. And on the side for Liyab, they're trying to leverage that Camille split pushing ability a bit more going into the late game.
Yeah, kind of like switching around what the two teams are really going to be doing, because up until this point, we have seen Liyab try to force the fights. Of course, that whole engagement started with the catch onto the Kazakhs, and Alex, after he got blown up, you know, his teammates avenged him pretty quickly. So definitely a little bit of some unexpected outcomes happening towards this mid game. But as things go a little bit later, I am curious to see how effective the Kanji split push will be. I think Boom got themselves very well ahead with a lot of pressure. Just making use of Rift Heralds, obviously not an opportunity anymore. But there is a lot of pressure between Ruby, between Alex, just in individual plays. I think Liyab splitting off does mean that there is always some danger for Kanji to get collapsed on. We've seen it happen a couple of times already. Even though he is playing a little more confidently, I think he's got to be careful if he gets baited into some one-on-ones, because they certainly don't appear to be one-on-ones. Or they certainly appear to be, but they definitely aren't.
I have to agree with you. You always have Ziggs coming in to help, and they also have double TPs on the composition to close that one down. I would say holistically, I do favor Boom Esports comp a little bit more. I think it's very difficult for Liyab to actually take burst damage from the members at this point. So with Ruby starting to get out of control, I don't see the members really surviving. Camille is going to have a hard time taking burst. Galio can't really take that much burst unless he gets the Aftershock beforehand, and that's going to be difficult to do. So my predictions on the game is, unless we see some sort of hero engage on Aiden or some Everfrost craziness coming out that just catches out Ruby by surprise, I think it's going to be very hard for Liyab to actually find a clean team fight from this point forward.
Yeah, that is always going to be the challenge. You know, we've seen a couple of good counter engages from Liyab, but them setting up and playing, it's not the same as yesterday, where we really saw the steps planned out a couple of moves in advance, a couple of minutes in advance, and the macro was just very, very clean. But I think it also just speaks to a difference in the caliber of opponent, right? Hong Kong Attitude, we have seen, has been a team that have had struggles. And Boom, well, they can be beaten. I don't think it's quite the same. They certainly make a couple of mistakes, but there's a reason that this squad is currently locked into the playoffs with a 9-3 record. I mean, they nearly beat PSG. That's how good these guys are.
This might sound crazy, but in all honesty, if you look at this game and you look at the game that we started the day with, I'm actually willing to say that Liyab team fights probably look better than Berjaya and Hong Kong Attitude. This is not copium play, you know. I'm not high on anything. It's just
no. I think you're right. I think it might say more about Berjaya and Hong Kong Attitude. Might be a little bit of shade there, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely feel that way, and it just goes to speak about how far Liyab has actually came in comparison to their spring split performances. So I definitely hope that they can pick it up. This is going to be very difficult. I'm a little bit worried that we don't actually see Ruby going for the Banshees here. I would much prefer him still go layer the Banshee, but he's going for the full poke composition and just going straight for the death cap here. In my mind, it's not really necessary. I would much rather him get a little bit more safety. Like, if he lands a full combo, I think Dawn is still retreating, but he's looking for the one shot.
Yeah, speaking of poke, though, Dawn did manage to find a little bit. This Varus is starting to come online and be a little bit more of a threat. So Boom has to be careful how far they're willing to sniff. So far, they've been very good at not face-checking into Liyab territory, but what they have had trouble with is just going a little too deep on a chase. So Liyab could potentially bait that one out. Another dragon is still a ways away, but might as well take the scuttle when you have the chance. Xyliath and Kanji, full vision into the river. Oh, they want the fight. Rocky is comboing up onto Xyliath, who actually pops his stopwatch. Mega Inferno Bomb, he gets just blown up. He didn't look like a tank there at all.
Yeah, this Galio build is not particularly tanky whatsoever, and that was a great call from Boom Esports. You know, Liyab has ran this play 2 times already, just folding the Galio into the bottom side for a potential pick. Boom Esports, because they're setting up Drake in the meantime, do get a little bit lucky and just find him out right there. And unfortunately for Liyab, this just means they lose entirety of map control. Rocky's going to be able to split push past the tier 2 tower, which gives you a lot of pressure on Baron. Like, if someone has to deal with the wave at their inhibitor tower, then you have a lot of time to just walk towards the Baron instead, and then force a TP, rinse and repeat, and you have another chance at the Baron play. Unfortunately, I'm getting a bit of starter right here, so you probably might have to take over right now.
No worries, Clement. I got you. These things do happen from time to time. Boom, for their part, have certainly done a great job at building up a decent lead and cutting off the soul timer there for Liyab. Next dragon would be soul for them if they could secure it, and their 5v5 is something that, well, they maybe necessarily don't want to group up as much as they did before. Should still feel confident enough if it comes down to it. But the question is if Boom are able to get the engage, if they're able to get the positioning first. Mega Inferno Bomb is going to chunk out, so much of Dawn's health bar, and that forces them back at a time that they do not want.
Yeah,
Dawn is
still
in
40
a little
seconds.
bit of trouble.
Oh, yeah. This is what I was talking about. It's going to be harder and harder for Vars to really survive these engagements, as we see the Horizon focus being done here, and also the Void Staff completed for Wako. So a lot of just penetration onto the backline at this point, and there's no healing here as Ruby goes in.
Yeah, that's going to be a big bounce, though, on the satchel charge, and Dodoy actually going straight to the backline, looking for that cannonball combination. They will find Wako, but he's walking away, and they actually collapse around Boom Esports cover for their bot laner and deny Liyab the kill. Mega Inferno Bomb comes right back up in that fight, and the rest of Liyab have to scatter. They lose 2 for none.
Beautiful play coming in from Boom Esports. They punished Liyab for wandering outside of their second tier 2 tower, and I honestly don't know why Liyab chose to engage right there. They were down Dawn, who is a large part of their damage at that point, and they just weren't able to finish off the kill with their Wombo combo. And look at the resources that they expended here. It was double flashes coming in from Xyliath and Dodoy to try and get that one to go. It doesn't happen, and Boom Esports now with triple Ocean Drakes are not going to be phased by anything that Dawn can throw at them.
Yeah, Boom are very, very happy with how that all went down. All started with the chunk damage from the Ziggs. Let's see the counter engage here. It was actually opened up by the satchel charge, and then Liyab opted into it.
Yeah, this was a little bit perplexing to me. If you look at the amount of resources Wako still has, it's quite a bit. He still has his flash up, and he's able to get out of this. The damage isn't really there to kill him, and Rocky's also just perfectly happy to come in and just cut off the rest of the members from Liyab. So I feel like that was a bit too much of a low percentage play from Liyab. You really want to catch out Ruby instead in this situation. He doesn't have a Banshees, but you know, they went on for a while. However, they did get his flash, so maybe next time.
Maybe. They're going to have to move fast if they want it. A lot of focus on the Ziggs. I do like that they tried to delete him. The problem was it's so hard to catch him, and you cannot chase when the rest of Boom are still up and healthy. Liyab trying to set up a death brush and hoping that Boom will take some bait here as Dodoy walks forward. But they just can't punish, and Boom don't even need to start this Baron. They can just push out the waves and let Liyab come to them. Teleport actually going to get spent by Xyliath, as now it's 5 members of Liyab in mid.
I think the key thing is Xyliath has to stay next to Dawn to prevent any poke from coming down. Oh, that's a 4-man.
Can't prevent that poke. A lot of damage here, and now it's going to be the go button for Boom Esports. Will they be able to get the fight on the back of it? That's going to be the big heroes entrance, and nobody from Liyab has actually gone down just yet, but that just changes as Dodoy falls. Big poke from Dawn, but it is not nearly enough. He'll take down Alex, but Boom open up on the rest of them, and Kanji, he's just left as Boom play keep away. Double kill coming in for Ruby, and that's the ace.
Rocky goes lower than 200 HP, but still is able to survive right there as we get some trolling for Pop. And wow, that was such a great Renekton play. I love the decision to go for the Gargoyle Stone Blade. There is no Serpent's Fang on the other side, so nothing will reduce that shielding coming in, and he just stays alive this entire time. They get the chunk down, they finish it off with the big giant croc into front line. Beautiful play for Boom Esports to maintain themselves a great cushion as they go into the hardest part of the stretch for themselves.
Yeah, Boom Esports top laner looking more like Rocky Balboa as they'll be able to finish off the turret and the Nexus, taking a little bit of time about it just to have a little bit of fun. And once again, in typical Boom fashion, it ends around 37-38 minutes.
Both games against Liyab do go the distance. All of them are 37-minute games. But at the end, I think Boom Esports, they execute their composition very cleanly. They know their advantages in the long-range poke. They just throw it on Dawn. No real answer from Dawn coming in. Easy engage, and I'm so impressed by Rocky this game. They took him off his Gwen, but his Renekton still held down the fort. They gave the counter pick to Kanji, but you didn't feel Kanji's presence in this game whatsoever.
Yeah, great play by Boom. I think there were a couple of moments when maybe you had some head-scratching engages, you maybe had some deeper dives. Honestly, some of those plays, I feel like I can chalk up to, in some cases, maybe Alex or Ruby just going a little bit too aggro with the Assassins. And, of course, Alex has only had so many games with all the swaps that he and Hollow have been doing. But on the whole, Boom have just looked so darn good. They go into the home stretch of the split with a record of 10 wins already. And honestly, I keep going back to it, but it was so nearly another one against PSG. Like, this is a team that I think they can go the distance, and we'll see how far they actually make it into the postseason, rather. But they're just looking so good.
Talking about with Boom with 10 wins, it's also worthwhile to mention because Liyab also suffered another loss. That does mean that both J-Team and Machi are guaranteed to go on into the postseason. So congratulations to those teams. You expected them to be there, but it is now confirmed and they don't have to worry about it. They can spend a little bit more time experimenting with the rest of their games going forward.
Officially locked in. We will actually have Machi playing up next again against the Hong Kong Attitude. But before we get into that one, let's just keep talking a little bit more about this game, because it did feel like Liyab had the 5v5s in the early and in the mid game. They had a game plan. I do like to see this team really executing well together when it comes down to like those early stages of the game. It does seem to start falling apart a little bit in the later. It wasn't quite the clean start to finish that we saw yesterday, but this is still a squad on the rise, and despite only 2 wins, I think they can hold their heads high because there's a lot of chances still for them to try and pick up enough wins to get their way into playoffs.
They definitely gave Boom Esports a very tough fight. I think the main problem with this game is just how fast their bottom lane actually lost in terms of the laning phase. If you suffer an early, just a 2-death laning phase at level 2, there's not much you can actually do to get back into it. I think that was
they should have probably played a little quieter down bottom. I mean, they had a Varus. I don't know. I mean, I guess the Leona, you want to go in, you want to make the plays, but Dawn and Aiden have definitely. I think they have a propensity to get a little hyphy when maybe they shouldn't.
Yeah, I think a big component that was missing from the Liyab game plan was actually the 4v2 tower dive. If you look at Galio and Diana post 6, they can actually clear against LeBlanc. They can get to the bottom lane first, and you can pick up pretty easy double kills with just how much crowd control there is. But because of how far that bot lane fell behind just from the get-go, and with the Herald dropping there as well, like they couldn't really, it wasn't the Herald, but it was Rocky going down there. They really didn't have a chance, I think, to snowball from bottom side and turn that into Drake stacking. They still got Drake stacking, but it was more off Boom Esports mistakes rather than their own strong laning phases. So I felt like with the team comp that honestly didn't have that much margin for error, getting off to a bad start was very detrimental to their overall game plan. And congratulations to Ruby, I personally would have given it to Rocky maybe, but I think Ruby definitely did his job in getting the poke down earlier. He went for a very high risk build, and in the end he wasn't punished for it. in the last team fight. So congrats to him and picking up LeBlanc, cementing himself as one of our best, Black Rose players coming into the PCS.
Yeah, Ruby's definitely found a real gem of a champion right there on the LeBlanc, and he steps up once again to deliver all the damage, all the poke. I think a lot of the poke came out from him, from Wako as well. There was a lot. Everybody needed to do a particular job, and they managed to pull it off. So congratulations again to Boom. The schedule only gets tougher from here on out, but we'll see how it all goes. But we have to take ourselves a quick break. When we return, more of the PCS Week 4. Don't go anywhere.